And that's the thing, nobody tells you about these things. And by the time you know it all, you're halfway through your studies. Hello, my name is Elmira Strange and I'm a motivational psychologist and certified life coach. Welcome to my channel where we're discussing all the things related to self-development, psychology, coaching and therapy. So in this video, I would like to talk to you about something that I went through when I was studying at university. And perhaps this can help you as well to do your additional research after you will listen to what I've got to say. I've been studying at university for many years, although the last several years I'm working independently. I'm not at university any longer. I'm a digital nomad. I'm a teacher of psychology, therapy, and coaching. I have students that are writing to me pretty much on daily basis, asking me for career advice related to psychology, counseling, therapy, and coaching, and working online. What I share is my previous experience of working and studying at university in Wales in the United Kingdom. And even though I am not longer working there and perhaps some of my information might be outdated, I don't know, you tell me. Please put in the comments if there is anything updated that you know that can help other students who are listening to this video who are reading through comments. Any advice that you will add here related to this career of psychology will be very helpful. Okay, so let's get down to the things that they don't tell you when you go to university to study psychology. The first thing I would say is that the career of psychologist don't take just 3 to 4 years. So many students assume that once you complete your undergraduate study at university, which lasts, as we say, 3 to 4 years, that will be enough to embark on this psychology career. And that's not the case. The psychologists in the United Kingdom usually complete PhD, not just BA, BS undergraduate degree. So the undergraduate study is the first step towards the career of becoming a psychologist, whether you want to become a child psychologist, a forensic one, or clinical one, or you want to be in educational environment. Get prepared for a study after study, and I mean doing masters and probably doing PhD or clinical doctorate if you're going into clinical psychology route. Is there any point where you can come out of that route and call yourself psychologist? Not in the conventional sense. In the UK, for example, you cannot call yourself a psychologist, especially if it's a clinical psychologist or research psychologist without doctorate behind it. However, just recently I came across certain articles about that the title of psychologist actually is not protected legally, as many assume, and this is what I believed for many years. I actually thought that it's legally protected title and you cannot call yourself as a psychologist until you finish your doctorate. But apparently only certain terms are legally protected. For example, clinical psychologist would be one of them. You cannot call yourself clinical psychologist until you've done the doctorate in clinical psychology. And also you cannot call yourself certified or registered counselor or accredited counselor without completing certain degree, usually it's a degree and master degree at least, of accredited studies. The interesting thing is that the terms psychologist and counselor are actually not legally protected. So, in theory, anyone who completed certain studies, not necessarily accredited, can call themselves as a psychologist or counselor. So this has changed a lot. Actually, there are a lot of things changing in this world. The things that we believed before are no longer as they are. And it applies to so many spheres of our lives that I find it really surprising how our life changes. But that's a different topic. So another thing which was related to that is that they don't tell you about the accreditation when you get into university. The thing is, if you do want to become a clinical psychologist, for example, or work in the educational field, these are two of the easiest areas of psychology actually to get into. It's the educational, i.e. becoming a professor or teacher of psychology or lecturer at university, or clinical psychology, where you'll be working as a clinical psychologist after you finish your doctorate. The other ones, okay, we'll get to them in a moment. In this one, I wanted to say that nobody really talks about accreditation, that in order to become, for example, say a clinical psychologist, you do need to complete a study which is BPS accredited. British Psychological Society needs to approve those courses in order for them to be really viable, really respectful by other universities. I mean, other universities won't even take you to further studies if you haven't done BPS accredited studies, if you haven't completed them. That's in case if you do want to work as a clinical psychologist or you want to work at university, or you would like to work in some organization or some occupational psychology, even then. However, if you do think about working for yourself, and I mean as a self-employed, as an independent psychologist, then perhaps there are some alternatives, like doing your studies in whatever way possible to you, i.e. online studies, for example, online courses, and not necessarily accredited. Another point is that not every area of psychology is so easy to get into, and it's so easy to get a job. For example, like I said earlier, clinical psychology and educational area would be the easiest in the UK, and I believe in Russia too. They would be the easiest to get into. The other ones, which is art therapy, forensic psychology, counseling psychology, criminal psychology, and even child psychology, these are kind of less available. And again, nobody talks about it when you get into university. You find out yourself that it's very difficult to get into those areas because there are not that many jobs available, and you'll end up probably working as an independent psychologist, working as self-employed, and trying to find work through either agencies or building your own business, which means opening your own practice. Another thing that they don't tell you is that certain universities would be more prioritized by certain companies than others. And not all universities are the same. Some will have a weight and others won't be weighted as much. So you will need to have a look at the ranking of universities, which you can do through Google. Which are the best universities, for example, in the UK to go and study psychology. Again, especially if you are thinking about studying, working, living in the UK or the United States. But that's a crossover, so you have to be very careful about what's available and what's acceptable, for example, by the employer in the United States or in the United Kingdom. So the advice that I give to my students when they ask me about it is to actually approach a university or the employer directly. Communicate with them, contact them, and actually tell them what you've got, the background, what you've already completed, what you're hoping to achieve, why you want to work for them or study with them. When I was working at university, this is what we were getting. We were getting letters from students that were asking us all kind of questions. And you know what? Certain students we would invite for informal interview, for a discussion. What they've been up to, if they can get enrolled into our course right now, because it's end of the enrollment, for example, but we still have a few spaces. We would remember their names sometimes because they would be more striking, because they would write to us. This is what I encourage my students to do. Don't think that your email will be ignored and nobody will respond to you. This is not the case. If it's not responded, it's probably the person, and I mean usually the professor or the director of the studies. Perhaps he or she was busy and couldn't answer in time, but you can prompt them kindly, with respect, with a very short email, asking them to read through your letter again. And in most cases, you will get your answer. So, and this is the last point where we got to. And I think this is a really good point. And it's a real shame that they don't do it at university. They don't teach you about entrepreneurship. They don't teach you about business. They don't teach you how to set up your own personal practice or private practice, that you can run as your own successful business. And this is what they don't teach you. I would say you have to be prepared for all kinds of doors that can open up in front of you. Whether it's a clinical psychology route that can take you somewhere where you will really enjoy working with people and going to conferences and doing psychotherapeutic practice as a part of your work. Or this might be a door into teaching at university, which you might enjoy, and you cannot imagine right now how much you will enjoy, because I didn't know that I will enjoy it so much that the teaching profession will become my lifelong profession. I'm enjoying it way too much what I'm doing, and I probably wouldn't deviate from this path for the foreseeable future. But also be prepared for the door that will lead you to own independent practice. Perhaps you will open the practice yourself and you will be working independently, and it might work out even better than if you were working for some organization or in some hospital or educational establishment and so on. Well, I hope you really enjoy my video, and if you found it helpful and useful, please like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. This shows to me that you appreciate my videos, you like it, and you would like more of this content, and I will gladly create it for you. Thank you for being on my channel, and I will see you in my next video.